Hello and welcome to the Festive Savvy Corner. My name is Alisa and I make videos about personal and business finances, financial well-being and money mindset. If any of these topics are of interest to you and you'd like to watch more money-related content, please consider subscribing. I'd love to have you join the community. December is a time of joy and celebration, but for some people it's also a very stressful time, because of the emotional and financial pressures of buying Christmas presents. The Bank of England has conducted a study which shows that a typical household in the UK spends an average of £800 more than their usual expenditure in December. What is even more concerning is that almost 60% of people in the UK use either their credit card, a payday loan, or a personal loan to buy presents. People are going into debt so that they can buy gifts, and for some, it can take until April the following year to clear the debt they have accumulated during the holiday season. I don't want that to happen to you. That's not what Christmas is about. So in today's video, I want to give you a few budgeting tips for buying Christmas presents and surviving the holiday season without going into debt. I want to keep it short and sweet, to the point, so I'm going to offer 5 tips that are practical and actionable immediately. Before we jump into the tips though, I want to give you some more interesting facts that are worth reflecting upon. There is a gap between how much someone spends on a present and how much the recipient of that present values the gift. And this gap can be anywhere between 10% and 33% of the purchasing value of the gift. Similar to a new car which depreciates immediately after it's been bought, Christmas presents lose between 10% and 1/3 of their value when they are received. In addition to this, an online survey conducted in 2016 in Europe revealed that 15% of people surveyed were unhappy about the gifts they received, and 10% could not even remember what they got. 25% admitted to have re-gifted their presents to someone else, 14% sold them, 10% tried to return them to the store, and 5% returned them to the person they received them from. Some people took them to charity, and others simply threw them away. How's that for appreciation for your Christmas presents? I'm not saying you shouldn't buy them, but think about these statistics and ask yourself, is it worth overspending, going into debt, and triggering financial stress just so you can buy some gifts? Here are 5 tips to help you budget for your Christmas gift shopping. Number 1 is to make a list of the people you intend to buy presents for. This might sound obvious, but I want you to then look at this list and be very honest with yourself in answering this question. Are they on the list because you want to buy them something, or because you feel that you have to? If it's the latter, cross them off your list. It's okay to be strict about whose names you are putting on this list. You don't have to buy presents for everyone and their dog. For some people, you can just buy a card, or even better, send them an e-card. So refine your list, and then we'll move on to tip number 2, which is to establish an overall budget for all of your gifts. How much can you afford and are willing to spend on all of the gifts you'll be buying this Christmas? Notice that I mentioned the word afford. You might be willing to spend thousands, but if your bank account, not your credit card, but your current bank account doesn't allow it, then work within the limits of what it does allow you to spend. You might need to do some calculations here, but a good rule of thumb is to look at your financial commitments for an average month, estimate how much more you are likely to spend on food and social commitments in December, then add it all together and deduct this sum from your monthly income. Whatever is left, if it's a positive number, that is what you can afford to spend on presents. If it's a negative number, then you are already in debt and perhaps we need to have a conversation. If that's the case for you, stay tuned for my upcoming videos this month, because I will touch upon ideas for Christmas presents that don't cost a lot of money, if anything at all. But if you have determined your overall budget, let's move on to tip number 3. Allocate this budget between all of the people on your list. Notice that we start with the overall budget first, and then we divide this money amongst the people on the list. If we didn't do this in this order, we would risk losing control over the budget. It's very easy to allocate a sum of money for each person, and then whatever the total ends up being, that's what you spend on them, whether you can afford it or not. Which is why it's very important to do it the other way around, so that you always have control of that overall figure. You might notice that what you initially intended to spend on each person might not be what you can afford to spend on them. And you'll have to tweak these numbers, these figures, a few times. Whatever you do, make sure that the sum of all of the budgets for each person on the list is not greater than your overall budget. And if it is, you need to reduce some numbers until the sum falls within the budget you've set. Okay, now you have a list and an allowance for each person on the list. It's time to write down gift ideas for each person. And this is tip number 4. What gifts would they like to receive that fit into that allowance? We do this so that you don't get overwhelmed or distracted when it comes to actual shopping. I'd like to suggest that you only buy one thing for each person. This has a number of advantages. One, you only need to buy once, and therefore you save time and you save energy. Secondly, buying one gift will make it a more substantial present, and adults prefer this rather than a bunch of small little gifts. It also saves you from wrapping a lot of presents and reduces waste, which is massive around the holiday season. And finally, you won't start to feel guilty because you bought your sister 2 things and your brother only 1 thing, and therefore be tempted to buy something else to compensate. Buying one thing for each person gets rid of all these problems. So be smart about your Christmas shopping. Which takes me to tip number 5. The budget is not a target. If you can buy something that the person on your list will truly enjoy and spend less, you shouldn't feel guilty and try to spend more until you've reached the limit of your budget. What you pay for gifts is not directly proportional to how much you love or appreciate the person you give them to. Money has nothing to do with that. Some of us have more of it and some of us have less of it, but that doesn't mean that people with less money don't care about their loved ones just as much as wealthier people do. And finally, I want to leave you with this. Your loved ones would rather see you happy and in a good financial position rather than see you stressed and in debt in order to get them presents. Remember that when you go shopping. Alright, that's it from me for today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. I release new money-related content every week. The 2 videos you see on the screen have been carefully selected for you to help you get more confident and efficient at managing your money. So go check them out if you've got the time. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.